Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are revisiting the gearbox concept because in the original video where I showcased it, we have 59 likes, and I said in the video where I tried and failed to put it in a race car that if it got 50 likes, then it would get a proper tutorial. And so here we are. I've made a simplified test bed with only 2 gears instead of 5, and I'm going to walk you through, hopefully walk you through, step by step on how I made it. So let's leave this version right here and let's make a new one. So first let's make our test bed. Add an engine and a seat. For our next step, I'm going to place an accumulator. This accumulator is going to be for our gears. We're going to go from -1 to 2, because just like in this one, we're going to have 4 speeds: reverse, neutral, first, and second. Now, I want to place the 4 comparison gates that will allow for the accumulator to actually do something in relation to the engine, like so, and they're all going to be connected. These are going to be comparison gates for all of our different gears, and I'm going to decorate them with a decal accordingly. Next, we want to configure our comparison gates. All of them need to be on equals. The reverse gear needs to have its threshold on -1. The neutral comparison gate needs to be at 0, and then the 2 gears need to be at their respective positions, like so. Now I'm going to put an AND gate on the reverse gear, the first gear, and the second gear, and link them up. And then what I want to do is have an OR gate to go forwards. You don't have to paint them at all. This is just so it's easier for me to explain, and it's easier for you to see what does what. The W key is going to go into all of the AND gates. Now we need our speedometer, which is going to be built as follows. Now, what this does is it takes a measurement in meters per second, because in the measurement mode, an absolute output is measured in meters per second. That is how the speed sensor works. This is a conversion gate, which basically just means it takes the input from the speed sensor and turns it into kilometers per hour before giving it into the number display. Now I've set it to round to the nearest because that is how it works in the actual speedometer in the GUI. As you can see, they are the same speed. Now, obviously the gears aren't working yet. They are still, my seat is still hooked up to the engine, which we are going to change right now. So now, nothing happens when I press W. I've forgotten a very important step. You need to give keybinds to your accumulator and use steps. So you can actually go up and down in your gears. Now, we need maximum speed limiters for each gear, because our gearbox here is speed-based, and it is not engine power-based, because there is no way for us to, you know, like, in lower gears, the engine has a higher torque figure and higher acceleration rate, but a low top speed. We can only simulate the top speed part of that sequence. So that's what we are going to be doing with these comparison gates. They are going to be set to less than, and they are going to each respectively go into these AND gates. If you have lots more gears and you want to go faster than 100 of your selected unit, you are going to need an extra gate in between to divide the number by 10, because the activation threshold of the comparison gate only goes up to 100. So that would look like this. I find it more reliable to multiply by 0.1 rather than divide by 10. And then that will look like this. This goes to this, and then this goes to this. Now it's time to configure these. I want to go to 50 kilometers an hour in the first gear, so I will set the threshold to 5, because if we multiply it by 10, this speedo will read 50. Hopefully that makes sense. For this one, I want to go 100. Actually, no, let's go 150. Let's go 150. Now, what this does is it just means that when you're going, for example, with this gear in first, when I'm going faster than 50, the engines will not receive power anymore. Now, as it is, we still haven't connected these AND gates to the engine, so let's do that. And now we can give it a test. As you can see, we get a little burst of power as soon as we hit 50 kph. Which means the system is working. Let's test it for the second gear. We do not have enough engine power to reach 150 kph, but that is fine. That is not a problem. We haven't configured our brakes yet, but that's okay. Next, we're going to quickly do our reverse gear. And all that consists of is just flipping the output to -1. We go into reverse, it'll go backwards. And until we configure our brakes, we can use the reverse gear as brakes. Speaking of which, let's do those right now. What we're going to need is 2 AND gates, 1 comparison gate, and 1 speed sensor. The S key is going to go into here. This speed sensor is going to be configured to 20 kilometers per hour and go into the AND gate on the bottom. This comparison gate is going to be configured to 2 and be set to greater than and go into the AND gate. The arithmetic gate is going to go to the comparison gate. Like so. Now, this AND gate is going to be for braking at positive speeds, so we need to set it to -1. And the one with the speed sensor on the bottom is going to be for negative speeds, so that means we need to keep it as it is and put it into here. Now, what this does is makes it so we can brake when going forwards and brake while going backwards. Simple as that. Now, our final step for the actual gears themselves is to make it so we cannot use a gear if we are going too slow. And we are going to demonstrate that with another comparison gate, which goes into the AND gate for the second gear. We don't need one for first, because first needs to be able to work from complete standstill. Our maximum speed for first gear is 50. So we are going to need a threshold that is slightly lower than that. We are going to go with 40. And we're going to set it to greater than. And then we're going to hook it up into here, like that. Now what this is going to do is make it so we can't use second if we are going slower than 40 kilometers an hour. As demonstrated right there. Let's make the sound system with the outboard motor. Place an outboard motor right there. Make sure it's not hooked up to the seat, or just eliminate the keybinds. Personally, I like to unhook it from the seat because it's a lot more reliable. Now, we are going to need some speed sensors. You're going to want a speed sensor for every gear that you want the outboard boat engine to fire for. I'm going to do it for first and second only. You could do it for reverse, but that just requires you to flip the speed sensor backwards, so I'm not going to show you. Right. What we need now is an aggregate block. When we set it to product, this essentially now functions as an AND gate that preserves the signal strength that you want to relay to its destination. Now, this is how you want to configure your speed sensor over here. All this does, basically, the speed needs to be the same as whatever you put in here, times 10. So if your maximum speed for first gear is 50, then you want to put 50 in here. We don't need a conversion here because we are on normalized and we are only using it to set a speed for the outboard engine. We're not using it to do complex calculations. Now, this aggregate block, as it is, will keep firing regardless. So what we need to do is also hook it up with the respective gear comparison gate. And that means that it'll only do something when we are in first gear. As you can see, the speed sensor is maxing out, but nothing's happening. If I slow down here a little bit, it's activating, but nothing's happening because we're not in first. If I shift down to first, we get the right thing happening. And as for the actual power band of the gear itself, that's all we need to do. But we also need to set up a system that makes it so it doesn't fire while we are in other gears, and also so we have a redline zone. So how that's going to look is the following. We want a NOR gate and an OR gate, like so. This OR gate is going to go into the NOR gate. The NOR gate is going to go into the outboard engine. The speed sensor is also going to go into the NOR gate. And now every gear that is not first is going to go into the OR gate. At least I think that's how that works. Let me double check. Something I apparently forgot to do is also hook up the speed limiters to the NOR gates. because otherwise they will just redline as standstill. Redline only at the top end of the gear. We've shifted up into second. You can hear the tone of the outboard engine change. Those downshifts tickle my brain. Now, if you also want an indicator for when you're over revving, for example with flame spitting exhaust tips, we can also do that. If I can find where the blocks are in the build menu, I'm going to use rocket thrusters. We need a randomizer and a comparison gate. Making this number bigger will just decrease your chances of having a actual spit in the flames. Set it to greater than so we have a slightly bigger window. And also not forget to hook it up to the NOR gate. And there you go. Hopefully this guide was comprehensive. If it was, definitely leave a like and subscribe to my channel. If it wasn't, leave a comment in the comments explaining why I should never show my face on the platform. I mean, what you didn't understand, so I can maybe help you further. And if you have any suggestions for what I could do next, definitely also leave them in the comments. I would love to read them, and maybe, if your idea is good enough, I will do it in a future video. See you later.